A woman approached me at the cafe, smiling knowingly. She whispered, "He promised me forever too." Before I could ask more, she walked away. My fiancé denies ever knowing her, but her words echo in my mind, unraveling every promise he's ever made. The cafe was alive with chatter, the clinking of cups and the hum of espresso machines. I had chosen a corner table tucked away from the bustle where I could enjoy the comfort of routine. The warmth of roasted beans filled the air, wrapping me in a sense of calm. I remember stirring my coffee absent-mindedly, watching the swirl of cream dissolve into the dark liquid, when the moment shattered everything. A woman leaned close to my table, her presence sudden and unsettling. She didn't ask if she could sit, didn't even pause long enough for me to react. Her smile was sharp, almost knowing, and before I could speak she whispered words that froze me in place. "He promised me forever too." I blinked, stunned, my hand tightening around the cup. The steam rose between us, but she was already moving away, her coat brushing against the chair as she slipped out the door. No explanation. No chance to ask who she was. Just that single sentence, heavy and bitter, left hanging in the air. I sat there, staring at the door she had disappeared through, my heart pounding. The cafe noise seemed distant, muffled, as though the world had tilted. My fiancé's face flashed in my mind, his smile, his promises, the way he had sworn we were meant to be. And now, a stranger claimed those same words belonged to her. Confusion tangled with disbelief. I wanted to chase her, demand answers, but my body felt rooted to the chair. I replayed her tone, the way she said forever, with a kind of ache, as if the word itself had betrayed her. My coffee cooled untouched and I sat there, trapped in a storm of questions. That evening I confronted him. I didn't wait for dinner or small talk. As soon as he walked through the door, I asked, "Do you know a woman who says you promised her forever?" His reaction was calm, too calm. He raised an eyebrow, set down his keys and laughed softly as if I had told him a joke. "What are you talking about? I don't know anyone like that." But his eyes betrayed him. Just for a second, a flicker, something sharp, something guarded. It was gone before I could pin it down, replaced by his usual charm. He reached for me, touched my arm and said, "You must have misunderstood." Maybe she was confused, or maybe she was just strange. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to dismiss it as a mistake. But the echo of her words wouldn't leave me. Days passed and small incidents began to gnaw at me. His late-night calls, answered in hushed tones. The way he slipped outside with his phone claiming it was work. His sudden mood swings, cheerful one moment, distant the next. I had ignored these things before, chalked them up to stress, but now they felt like pieces of a puzzle I hadn't wanted to see. One night, I woke to find him sitting in the living room, staring at his phone with a look I couldn't read. When he noticed me, he quickly locked the screen and smiled too quickly. "Couldn't sleep," he said. But I knew there was more. The unease grew heavier. I found myself watching him, analyzing every word, every gesture. Love had once blinded me, but now suspicion sharpened my vision. I confided in my closest friend, Anna. We met at the same cafe, the place where it all began. I told her everything, the woman, the whisper, his denial. She listened quietly, her brow furrowed, her hands wrapped around her cup. "Don't dismiss this," she said firmly. "People don't say things like that without reason. If she knew about you, if she recognized you, then there's more to this story." Her words planted the seed deeper. I wanted to brush it off, to cling to the life I thought I had, but doubt had already taken root. That night, I lay awake beside him, listening to his steady breathing. I thought about the promises he had made, the way he had looked into my eyes and said we were forever. I remembered the ring on my finger, the plans we had made, the future I had trusted. And now all of it felt fragile, like glass ready to crack. The cafe scene replayed in my mind over and over. The woman's face, her smile, her whisper. I tried to recall details, her hair, her coat, the way she carried herself. She hadn't looked like someone desperate or unstable. She had looked certain, almost resigned. As if she had lived through the same story I was living now. I began noticing things I had overlooked before. A receipt in his jacket pocket from a restaurant I had never been to. A perfume scent lingering faintly on his shirt, not mine. A message on his phone that disappeared before I could read it. Each clue was small, but together they painted a picture I couldn't ignore. I started writing down the details, keeping a quiet record. The times he left, the excuses he gave, the inconsistencies in his stories. It felt like building a case, though I wasn't sure yet what I was preparing for. One afternoon I returned to the cafe alone, hoping to see her again. I sat at the same table, ordered the same coffee and waited. Hours passed but she didn't appear. Still, being there reminded me of the moment, the way my world had shifted with a single whisper. I couldn't shake the feeling that she had wanted me to know. That she had chosen to tell me even briefly because she understood what it meant. The more I thought about it, the more I realized how carefully she had spoken. She hadn't shouted, hadn't accused. She had whispered almost gently but with a weight that carried truth. And now that truth lived inside me, refusing to be silenced. I began to watch my fiancé differently. His smile no longer reassured me, it made me wonder what lay beneath. His promises no longer comforted me, they made me question who else had heard them. Anna's warning echoed in my mind. Don't dismiss this. I couldn't. Not anymore. The whisper had shaken my world, and though I tried to steady myself, the cracks were spreading. Every promise he had made now felt like a shadow, and I couldn't tell if the man beside me was the one I thought I knew, or a stranger hiding behind familiar words. The whisper had cracked something inside me and I couldn't let it rest. Each time I looked at him, each time he smiled as though nothing had changed, I felt the weight of her words pressing harder. I knew I had to find her again. Answers wouldn't come from him, they had to come from her. The next morning I returned to the cafe. The same corner table sat empty, the same hum of voices filled the air, but she wasn't there. I approached the counter, my voice steady though my hands trembled. Do you know a woman mid-30s, maybe, dark coat, quiet? She was here a few days ago. The barista frowned, glanced at his coworker, then shrugged. Lots of people come through. Hard to say. His vague tone frustrated me, but I pressed on. Another barista, younger, with tired eyes, hesitated before speaking. I think I've seen her. He comes in sometimes, always alone. Doesn't stay long. It wasn't much, but it was something. A thread to follow. That night I sat at my desk, scrolling through my fiancé's old photos. Smiling faces, vacations, dinners, moments I thought were ours alone. But in the background of one picture taken years ago I noticed a detail. A reflection in a window, a woman's silhouette. It was blurry, but something about it unsettled me. I dug deeper. His social media, long abandoned, held fragments of conversations. Comments from people I didn't know, messages half erased. One name appeared more than once, always casual, always vague. I clicked, but the account was gone. Deleted. Still, the traces remained like fingerprints on glass. The more I searched, the more I felt the walls closing in. My heart raced with each discovery, yet nothing was concrete. Just shadows, hints, pieces that didn't fit together. A week later I overheard a conversation at the cafe. Two women at the next table spoke about a bookstore nearby, a place where she was often seen. My pulse quickened. Could it be her? I found the bookstore easily. It was small, tucked between a bakery and a florist, its windows lined with old novels and faded posters. Inside, the air smelled of paper and dust, the kind of place where secrets could linger unnoticed. I wandered the aisles, pretending to browse, but my eyes kept darting to the door. Hours passed. She didn't come. Instead, I struck up a conversation with the shopkeeper, an older man with kind eyes. I asked casually if he knew a woman who came often, quiet, reserved. He nodded slowly. Yes, I've seen her. She reads poetry. Never buys, just sits and reads. She looks sad. His words pierced me. That single description carried weight. I returned again the next day and the next. Waiting became a ritual. In the meantime I spoke with strangers, customers who drifted in and out. One woman told me about her ex-husband, how he had lived 2 lives, 2 families, 2 sets of promises. Another man shared how his brother had hidden affairs for years, smiling through lies. Their stories unsettled me, but they also fueled my resolve. Finally, one evening as the sky turned violet and the bookstore lights flickered on, she appeared. My breath caught. She moved quietly, her coat pulled close, her eyes scanning the shelves. I didn't hesitate. I stepped forward, blocking her path gently. Wait, I said, my voice trembling but firm. Please. I need to talk to you. She froze, her eyes widening. For a moment I thought she would run. But then she sighed as if she had expected this. I shouldn't, she whispered. You have to, I pleaded. You came to me once. You said he promised you forever. I need to know what you meant. Her gaze softened, though pain lingered in her expression. She glanced around, then nodded toward a quiet corner. We sat among stacks of forgotten books, the silence heavy between us. "He told me the same things he told you," she began, her voice low. "That we were meant to be. That he would never leave. He said forever, and I believed him." My chest tightened. "What happened?" "He vanished," she said simply. "One day he was there, the next he was gone. No explanation. No goodbye. Just silence." I swallowed hard, my mind racing. "How did you know about me?" Her eyes met mine, steady and unflinching. "I saw your picture. On his phone. He had it saved. I recognized you when I saw you at the cafe. I thought, you should know." The room seemed to tilt. My hands shook as I gripped the edge of the table. "So it's true. He promised you forever too." She nodded, her lips pressed tightly together. "I don't know why he does it. Maybe he needs to feel powerful. Maybe he just enjoys the game. But I know he isn't who he pretends to be." Her words cut deeper than any denial he had given me. This wasn't a stranger inventing stories. This was a woman who had lived through the same promises, the same lies. I wanted to ask more, but she stood abruptly, pulling her coat tighter. "I shouldn't have told you," she said. But I couldn't stay silent. "Be careful." And with that she walked away again, leaving me in the dim glow of the bookstore. I sat there long after she left, the weight of her story pressing down on me. The shadows I had been chasing were no longer vague. They had shape, form, truth. The shopkeeper approached, concern in his eyes. "Are you all right?" he asked gently. I forced a smile, though my heart was breaking. "I will be," I said. But inside I knew nothing would ever be the same. That night I returned home, her words echoing in my mind. I looked at him differently, saw the cracks in his charm, the lies hidden in his smile. The shadows had become real and I couldn't unsee them. That night I couldn't sleep. Her words from the bookstore replayed in my mind, each syllable cutting deeper than the last. I lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, listening to the steady rhythm of his breathing beside me. He looked peaceful, almost innocent, but I knew better now. The silence between us was no longer comforting. It was suffocating. By morning I had made up my mind. I couldn't carry the weight of suspicion any longer. I needed to confront him, to force the truth out of the shadows. When he came into the kitchen, humming softly as he poured his coffee, I stood waiting. My voice was steady, though my heart raced. "I spoke to her again," I said. His hand froze mid-pour. The hum stopped. He turned slowly, his eyes narrowing. "Who?" "You know who," I replied. "The woman who said you promised her forever. She told me everything." For a moment his mask slipped. His jaw tightened, his eyes hardened, and the charm he wore like armor cracked. He didn't deny it this time. He didn't laugh or dismiss me. Instead he slammed the cup down, coffee spilling across the counter. "You shouldn't have spoken to her," he snapped. His voice was sharp, laced with anger. That anger was all the confirmation I needed. He hadn't admitted it outright, but his fury told me the truth. He was guilty. I didn't cry. I didn't plead. I simply looked at him, my silence louder than any accusation. He stormed out, leaving the door rattling behind him, but I knew the reckoning had begun. Later that week I met her again. This time we sat together in the bookstore, surrounded by the quiet hum of pages turning. She brought a small box with her, worn and faded. Inside were letters, photographs, and trinkets, tokens of promises he had made to her. I picked up one of the letters, my hands trembling. His handwriting was unmistakable. The words were identical to the ones he had written me. "Forever. Always. You're the only one." My stomach twisted. Every phrase I had once cherished was now tainted, recycled, handed out like cheap currency. She watched me carefully. "I thought you should see this," she said softly. "So you'd know you're not alone." We pieced together the timeline, comparing dates, messages, and memories. The overlap was undeniable. While he had been with me, he had been with her too. His lies stretched across months, years, woven into the fabric of our lives. The heartbreak was sharp, but beneath it, something else stirred, fury. I realized I couldn't let him walk away unscathed. He had built his charm on deception, and it was time to strip it away. I began to plan. Not recklessly but carefully. Each step deliberate, each move calculated. I gathered evidence. The letters, the photos, the receipts, the messages. I spoke to Anna, who agreed to stand by me. Together we created a web of truth strong enough to shatter his facade. The first strike came at a family dinner. He sat at the head of the table, smiling, telling stories, basking in admiration. I waited until the laughter faded, then placed the box on the table. "This belongs to her," I said, my voice calm but firm. "The woman you promised forever while you promised me the same." The room fell silent. His mother's fork clattered against her plate. His brother stared, wide-eyed. He tried to speak, but the letters spoke louder. The photographs told the story he couldn't deny. His charm crumbled in that moment. The respect he had commanded dissolved into shock, disappointment, and anger. But I wasn't finished. I exposed him to friends, colleagues, anyone who had believed his polished image. I showed them the truth, not with bitterness but with clarity. The evidence was undeniable. His reputation shattered, leaving him isolated, stripped of the admiration he had once thrived on. He tried to fight back, tried to paint me as jealous, unstable, vindictive. But the proof silenced him. His words carried no weight against the reality of his lies. I watched as the walls he had built collapsed around him. The man who had once seemed untouchable now stood alone, his mask broken, his charm useless. And in that destruction I found strength. The woman and I met one final time. We sat together in the cafe, the place where it had all begun. The air was heavy with memory, but lighter now too. We shared a quiet moment of solidarity, two women bound by betrayal but freed by truth. She reached across the table, her hand brushing mine. "You did what I couldn't," she said. "You exposed him." I nodded, feeling the weight lift from my shoulders. "We both did," I replied. As I walked away from that cafe, I felt different. Stronger. The pain hadn't vanished, but it had transformed. Betrayal had broken me, yes, but it had also rebuilt me. I learned that promises mean nothing without truth. Words can be sweet, but without honesty they are empty. And sometimes revenge isn't about cruelty. It's about closure, about reclaiming dignity, about ensuring the liar feels the weight of the lies he spun. The reckoning was complete. And I was free.